Hi, Trish. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Trish and I are meeting for the first time, and so I'm going to start with an introduction, and you can add anything that I've left out. You're a Wichita, Kansas hairdresser who works behind the chair doing normal clients, but also slays on editorial and avant-garde shoots.
Well, hey, I love that. What you said.
Yeah.
Hey, I would say that is accurate.
Yes. It's almost like, I mean, when I do my research on you, it's almost like I think of Superwoman, although I didn't see the last movie, so this may not be a very good analogy, where she's like normal during the day and then at night, or maybe Batman or Woman, where, normal during the day and then at night you put on your costume and you do these extraordinary things. Like that's what it seems like to me. Is that how you feel?
Oh, well, I like that. I think that's kind of funny because actually, I mean, you know, you can see what I look like. I'm just like the girl next door kind of looking person or whatever. And it sort of reminds me of things that I hear my clients say to me in regard to my editorial work or my avant-garde work, and all that sort of thing. They'll say, "Well, you look so normal compared to what you get." Like that's kind of, I mean, I hear what they're saying, but it's also sort of like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a narrow. I don't know, not narrow-minded, but I'm not going to walk around looking like the artwork I make, really. So,
Right. Right. Well, it's I don't know. I've never been to Wichita, Kansas, but and I don't know what your creative community is like there. But in creative communities in a place like Los Angeles or New York, people definitely try to embellish themselves to kind of they use their creativity in their own appearance, not just in their work, right? So it is kind of interesting. And I wasn't even thinking about how you looked. I was just thinking about the work that you do behind the chair versus the work that you do in front
okay,
of the camera.
yeah.
And for the listener's sake, Trish has won a lot of awards, and we're not going to go through them all because that's just lame. But most recently, you won the Naha Avant Garde
Yes.
Award, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
And you won the 2024. I'm sorry, that was, I don't know if I said this, but that was 2024 Naha. And then you won the 2024 Behind the Chair One Shot for editorial.
Yes.
So, and I mean that like the work is extraordinary. It's really art. I mean, it's straight up art in the form of hair. And I want to get into it later on, but I want to start with kind of your early beginnings, your origin story, if you will. So why don't you lead us off with where you're from and how you got into hair in the first place?
Well, so yes, I am from Wichita, Kansas, and yeah, Kansas is quite a bit different than say LA or New York, yes, in ways. But to your earlier question, we have actually a really great art scene here in Wichita. It's pretty fantastic, and um, I guess growing up here, in high school, I wasn't really sure what I wanted with my life, but I always knew that I enjoyed like art class or just creating things and that sort of thing. So I went to college at KU for a while, and that was great, but it was like sort of like I was just like a bird out of a cage. I mean, I went to Catholic school my whole life prior to that. And so moving to Lawrence and going to KU was like, it was fantastic, but I had a hard time focusing there. And
What were you studying?
well, I started out studying graphic design, and I probably, in hindsight, I should have stuck with that. I was good at it, but I think I was just kind of undecided at that point in my life, and started, thinking of other like alternative possible careers I might have, like, possibly becoming a therapist or, working with animals and that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, I think I just had too much fun in Lawrence and just sort of like scrapped all that. And I ended up debating whether to go to art school in Kansas City or to go to hair school. And so I ended up going to hair school. I was really inspired by my hairdresser at the time. She was just a super cool girl, and she and her sister had a salon in Lawrence. And she had been my hairdresser for quite a while, and I just thought, that sounds like an awesome career to me. It's creative. You can do with it what you want. There are a lot of different facets to being a hairdresser. So I just made the decision to come back home to Wichita and go to hair school, and that's what I did. So.
And do you remember that time when you were at that point trying to think about that decision, and you say that your hairdresser was probably the influence that pushed you in that direction. What other kind of considerations were you thinking about?
Well, I was thinking about going to school at the Kansas City Art Institute and maybe going into textiles or something like that. Um, Clothing or that sort of thing, or some kind of
Hmm.
graphic design. Um, which, now I know as a hairstylist, a hairdresser, that a lot of those different careers and choices in like art or whatever relate to each other. So when I did study graphic design for a little while at KU, now I can use those principles that I learned there in creating a hair collection, and I do that all the time. So I absolutely feel like I didn't waste time completely while I was there, um, and ended up in a really good place. So.
That's great. All right. So you went to hair school, and did you ever regret the decision? And were there times when you're like, I don't like this part?
No, I like as soon as I went to hair school, I was like, this is my kind of school because first of all, it's like it's going to be over with within a year. So that was
Right.
fantastic. And
Right.
um, no, I enjoyed it. It felt like I was in the right place. I already had an idea of where I wanted to work, which is where I still work right now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
And
I
hold on, was the hairdresser who influenced you? I'm sorry, did you say that the hairdresser who influenced you was your hairdresser?
Well, the hairdresser who really influenced me, her name is Carmen Rodriguez. And she actually did work here at Eric Fisher's Salon when I was in high school. So she was my
Mm.
hairdresser when I was in high school. And when I moved to Lawrence to go to KU, she and her sister had actually also happened to move there and open a salon. So I was
Oh,
thrilled because my hairdresser moved with me. Since
yeah. How often does that happen?
yeah, never. And
Never.
yeah, and so yeah, it's just kind of cool because I ended up coming, back here where I met her initially, and um, I wanted to work for Eric Fisher. There was no doubt in my mind about that. So that's where I've been for almost 30 years now. And
Wow.
I started off as an apprentice, and now I'm the creative director of the salon, and it's just been a fantastic work experience. So.
Wow. That's amazing. Okay, so and wow, that's really extraordinary. And there's lots in what you just said that are extraordinary. Um, so take us to the time when you decided to start going wild with your creativity with the avant-garde stuff. How did that happen?
Well, honestly, it was pretty early on. Eric has really a great reputation in the industry, and he had been doing that kind of work himself for a long time. And so I was really inspired by him to start creating that kind of work myself, like to work on models and do photo shoots and create hair pieces and that whole thing. Um, Now, at that time, Eric was not a photographer, but in time he did actually start focusing on becoming a photographer and has become really quite a great photographer. So, um, I would say absolutely just my relationship and knowing him and working for him, I right away dived into creating pieces and doing shoots, like within the first, couple years, I would say.
Wow. Okay. So you've been doing this for 25 plus years?
Yeah, yes, I
Oh
have.
my God.
Yeah, so like it's kind of funny because, I always sort of I thought, thought of myself as this kind of like Susan Lucci of the awards scene because except for I've never had a nomination, actually, not until this last year for NAHA. And a few years prior to that, I started getting nominations in the Midwest Hairstyling Awards. So, you know, I I was at it. I was learning. I guess I was finding my own style, and just probably getting better at my craft along the way. So yeah, there are a lot of years behind what this last year has been so fantastic for me personally. There are decades of work behind that. So um, you know,
That's what nobody sees.
nobody sees that. But I think actually I like to be the person that says, hey, this took me a long time, especially in this day and age when I think things are expected to be like happen really quickly. Everything's
Yeah.
fast and there's not much patience for a lot. And, I always say, I think if you have passion for what you're doing, it's not work. So, it's not a matter of win or lose. Like I had submitted collections to NAHA for probably, 20 years, not every
Wow.
year, but almost off and on. But the process for me was, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it then. I enjoy it even more now. I feel like I grew, um, developed my own sense of style. So none of it ever felt like a loss to me. It just
Hmm.
felt like growth and just kind of like reaping the reward of it now. So,
Talk about, so when you say you enjoyed it,
mm.
of course I understand that you enjoyed it, but are there parts of it that you don't enjoy?
Well, okay, I'm not going to say that I was never discouraged. I mean, that would be a lie, right? Like I'm not that like happy go lucky or like,
Right.
oh, that's fine. I lost again or I didn't get a nomination. It's, yeah, there's been disappointment, but, no, I don't know. As far as like the process, you mean like something I don't like about the creative process of it?
Yeah. Like, I think about things that I enjoy, and I think about this all the time, actually. The things that I enjoy, I don't enjoy every part of it.
Yeah.
you know? It's like I enjoy being a dad to my kids,
Yeah.
but not 100% of it. Some of it sucks,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. The process of, I don't know. I enjoy a lot of it. I do. I mean, I guess I don't enjoy it when I go downstairs to my studio and find that a hairpiece I'm working on has collapsed or something, or spending a lot of money on hair and things like that, and then like scrapping an idea. So like I could
Mm,
say maybe I don't enjoy those things, but
hmm.
genuinely, for the most part, I thoroughly enjoy the whole process, the creative process.
Okay, so let's talk about the creative process. You've been doing it for decades, and every year, maybe multiple times a year, you coming up with new ideas, or did somewhere along the way did you come up with the basic idea of maybe what won Naha this year, and you've iterated on it and tweaked it? Like, talk about how you start from zero to the finish line with the actual look.
Okay, so I mean, some of it I would say, like from a technical aspect, I would say that I learned certain techniques that I enjoy revisiting and introducing into like new collections. So like, say it's just the way I like form hair over a vase or something, to create a shape. So like once you've learned how to do something and you feel like you've got it down pat, it's kind of nice to go back and say, hey, I know how to do that. I'm going to do it in a different way, but I have faith that I know it will work. So
Mhm.
So there's that. But like as far as the the process and where it starts, creating new collections all the time, I think you just draw inspiration from surprising different places all the time. I mean, for me, it's that way. So, like, I'll just take the collection I'm working on, say right now. Like, I started out, I just come home from Florida from winning at Naha, and it was so just like full of happiness and just like super excited and just feeling really positive and good, ready to go. So, I was driving with my husband to visit his mother in a little town that's here in Kansas, about 2 hours, 2.5 hours away. And it's just like the landscape. People can laugh about Kansas or whatever and all that, but unless you've been here, there's beauty here. So
I'm sure.
beautiful blue skies, fields, the colors. It's just there's inspiration there for me. So we were driving and I just thought to myself, this is it. This is my next collection is going to be like based off of this. I'm feeling so inspired right now. So I take pictures. I usually create a folder on my phone, and just that's sort of like a place to, storyboard or whatever if you will,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of track my progress of my thoughts. So I started there, but then as time has gone on, I've veered really far from that place. And I don't know why or how, but it happens usually that I don't end up anywhere close to where I started. And I think once I embraced that and allowed myself to like let that change happen, I really think things got better for me in the way of like creating better work. So I don't know if that makes
Interesting. Yeah, sure it does. I'm wondering what the catalysts are for the changes, or let's call it the evolution of the idea.
yeah.
Is it are they practical constraints? So let's say you're driving down the freeway or down the road in Kansas, and I'm just making it up, and I'm not going to ask you what your idea is, but you see the rolling the waves of grass on the hills with the breeze blowing, in the wind and stuff.
Yeah.
And that inspires you to get a look of a certain kind.
Right.
And then you try to create it, but maybe there's practical constraints. Maybe there's, you can't get the hair to bend that way or whatever.
Yeah.
Or you can't get that color for some reason. So then you have to iterate in a different direction.
Yeah.
Or is it because you think of something, maybe you think of an image or a final look that is going to even be better.
Yeah.
So you try to go at it like that.
So it's more so the latter, I would say. Like it's more so that I kind of get new ideas or I see something and I think, I have a new twist on what I thought was the perfect thing and it just evolves. So it's I usually don't let myself like physically start working on something until I feel like I've got a pretty good plan, just so I don't waste time. That's not to
Or money.
say money product. Um, that's not to say that there aren't times when I say, try to create something and like you were saying before, like it's not going quite right, and you go back to the drawing board, and that does happen. But like in this case, it was more so that I just I don't know, I veered off of my original plan just by being inspired by some other things that um, I saw. I'd have to even look back at my little history of my folder or whatever to see exactly what happened there. But I don't know. There are aspects
Well, let's do that. So I'm on your Instagram and oh wait. Oh, there you go. I'm on your Instagram and so I'm showing the camera.
Yes.
This was a fashion show with your
Yes.
collection, and it looks like they're putting wigs. So you create all these looks in your workshop,
Yeah.
basement,
Yeah.
apartment, home, whatever,
Uh-huh.
and it probably takes you. How long does it take you to make one of the headpieces. Is that what you call them?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it just depends. Like, so like that show, actually, the editorial collection that I won with at the One Shot Awards in Dallas just recently, that's the same hair from that collection. It's just that I changed it up and just presented it a different way.
Okay.
So like I have a friend, she's a local wedding gown designer. Her name's Alicia Barra, and she has a studio. It's called Vanya Designs. And so we've worked together in the past. She's created things for me. I've commissioned her to create clothes for me for a runway or for photo shoots. And in this case, I just, I wanted to show that hair. And actually the time frame was small for me to like create something completely different. So I thought I'll just use the hair that I just won with the editorial collection with, and just do it, change it up. So I thought, that the hair, she's the designer in all of that, the editorial shoot, those are her gowns. So I thought, let's do it again, but let's do it a little different. We used different gowns that were not quite so elegant. They're a little bit more fun. I kind of just played up on like Halloween's coming. I thought it'd be fun to do sort of like a Day of the Dead, or like, I'm an 80s lady, so I kind of borrowed from the Dead Man's Party song. I just thought it'd be fun. It would be a fun little show. So
very interesting. Okay, so with the hair pieces themselves,
yes.
For the listeners, sometimes it's hard to do a podcast about something visual, but listeners, of course, you can watch this on YouTube. But if you're listening while driving in the car or walking the dog, her hair pieces are extremely elaborate. There's kind of all these different structural elements, maybe wires that kind of go out, and then there's hair that's kind of draped over them and in a wispy way, and they kind of come down a little bit like a weeping willow tree, a little bit, something like that. And it just looks amazing. Okay, so talk about how you got the idea to create those headpieces in the first place.
Well, I knew, so where I was coming from with that actually was my friend Alicia was wanting to photograph her most recent collection of those gowns. And Eric Fisher, my boss and my photographer, he, we got together and decided that we would do this shoot. He was going to photograph her gowns. I would do the hair, but we wanted it to be something that was different, so like something you might see like in Vogue, or like editorial, but like elevated, not just like hair in a bun, or like what a bride looks like. So I just thought of having hair that was draped. It is on wires, actually.
Okay.
To create kind of a feeling that was like a veil. I mean, it looks sort of like you say, like a willow or like a waterfall or something like that. But in my process of thinking, I was thinking of more so like a veil, so it would hang down over her and around the dress, but just a take on that.
Got it. And then how long did it take you to actually finish them? I mean, there's how many are there? How many headpieces?
There are 3. And actually, it doesn't always happen this way, but those pieces really did not take me that long to make. I mean, I probably made each one of them like separately in an afternoon. So like probably took me.
That's because you know what you're doing. Right? That's the decades of experience.
Yeah, through trial and error. I mean, there are pieces, like say my collection that I won avant-garde with for Naha, those took a long time. They took weeks. These pieces took, like probably maybe a day a piece. I mean, it basically taking wire and forming it to the shape that you want. And then, wefts of hair glued to wire. I mean, it's but there's more to it than that. You can't just glue hair to a wire. There has to be like something.
Yeah, of course.
So, but still.
Okay. And where do you buy the hair? I'm assuming it probably doesn't matter the quality of the hair, like the same way that an extension artist, has clients and they want to get high quality hair that could be colored and, shampooed and lasts and all, it feels good. I
Yes.
mean, this is different, right?
Yeah, it's different. I mean, always the goal is to spend like the least amount of money as possible. But um, with for those pieces, for example, I mean, that hair, it's real human hair. Um,
Oh, wow.
yeah, so it was a little more expensive. But I wanted to be able to put heat on it and flat iron it if the shape got weird or something. Just in time, like if it got after you photograph it and there's wind blowing on it, by the end of the day, it's not falling straight and smooth anymore. So, I when I showed it, I
Mm,
had to go through and adjust everything and straighten the hair out. So if the hair were synthetic, I really wouldn't have been able to do that. So, but yeah, there's like a couple local
I see.
creators that,
Got it.
yeah, you just go and shop for hair, like kind of like you're at a carnival. It's all up on the wall or whatever, and you pick it down.
All right. Okay, so the one shot award, it was a totally different look, and I'm putting it up for the listeners or the watchers, the viewers to see on YouTube. And so I mean, for those who are not watching, maybe how would you describe the look of these pieces?
Well, so that collection, that I ended up being a top 5 finalist at the One Shot Awards with that collection. But that's my collection that won at NAHA for Avant Garde Hairdresser of the Year.
Oh,
Um,
oh,
and
that's right. You won for editorial, but
uh,
you also entered in the One Shot Awards. You won for editorial, but you also entered for avant garde.
yes, yes.
Got it.
Um, so the process of creating those pieces was a lot more involved. I mean, the inspiration, I was definitely inspired by other hairdressers, specifically. Peter Gray is a hairdresser who really inspires me, and he's like a fantastically just nice person. And some of his past work that he had done, I think years ago for a Beta Congress, um, definitely took inspiration from that for this collection. Um, I also just, I don't know, some of where that came from for me was just like a place of real determination, and I wanted to create something really loud and strong. So using black and red, those colors are really super strong.
Hmm.
Um, there's hair involved, but there are also there are some like sticks involved in that. I mean,
Mm.
those are sculptures. They were really fragile, and
I bet. I
yeah.
mean, they remind me a little bit of a beautiful sea urchin
Oh,
with all of its spines going in every direction.
yeah.
And there's some that are thicker, there are some that are thinner,
Uh-huh.
and they create perfectly, a shape. And there's different ones, and one of them creates like almost a perfect oval shape with maybe 200 spines, if you will,
Yeah.
which is really remarkable.
Yeah. And I'll say this, part of what I enjoy about showing live, doing live hair shows, is that there's no question about AI or, the product not being what it is. Like that's another thing. And that, our times these days, you kind of have to question sometimes, like, is this real? Is it not? Is there AI involved? And those pieces, I showed those pieces live at the Midwest Hairstyling Awards, and that's what they look like. There are millions of sticks and pieces of hair and stuff involved in that, and they were
Hmm.
fragile, and little bits fell apart here and there, and you just glue them back on or whatever. But it was a blast to show that live, actually.
I bet. That's amazing. Okay, so let's talk about your time behind the chair. How do you split your time? How many days? You could just give me a percentage. How do you split your time each week?
So I'm just, I'm a hairdresser behind the chair, just like normal. Like I work full time behind the chair.
Hmm?
Um, and I whatever I create, like these pieces I do for shoots, that's always just in my spare time, basically on the weekends. It's
Hmm.
kind of like, what do you do for fun? That's what I do for fun. So yeah, so I'm at the salon Monday through Thursday actually, and I'm involved in teaching here at the salon. I'm the creative director, but I help Eric by teaching our new staff and training them to put them on the floor. So I'm pretty busy at the salon as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. That's great. So, do you ever get any clients who want any of your hair,
Yeah.
want any of your hair pieces?
No,
Any avant-garde?
no.
No.
But they will say, it's funny because they'll say, like, oh my gosh, these things that you create, you're probably so bored doing my hair. I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not. It's two completely separate things. I love my
Right.
clients. They're my livelihood is my job at the salon. So I built a really fantastic clientele over, the last close to 30 years, and I'm really grateful for my clients. So it's just two different things. I enjoy cutting hair
Of
a lot,
course.
coloring hair. I have got a really extensive education with Sassoon's training, all in Canada and London and here. And I still love cutting hair. So I'm glad I'm able to do all of it, really.
30 years behind the chair. So you've been through booms and busts. You've been through the recession after 9/11. You've been through, the roaring 2000s, and then we had the great financial crisis, GFC, some people call it, back in 2008, 9, 10. And then, of course, COVID most recently. What are you seeing nowadays behind the chair? Anything unique? Anything different? Any changes in the last couple of years coming out of COVID?
As far as like clients retain clients and that sort of thing.
Yeah, as far as client behavior, client requests,
Yeah.
style, any of those things.
Um, well, I think COVID made people appreciate each other in lots of different ways. And I think that it made a lot of clients really appreciate their hairdressers, because they would let their husbands cut their hair or things like that and come back and you'd have a mess on your hands. So I think that there was a new appreciation probably for that relationship. Like, it was us missing them. Like we had to draw unemployment during being home for COVID. And that was weird. I've never done that before in my life. And there's no shame in that, but it was just, something so unexpected. So it was really fun at first, like being at home and, we can't do our job from our home. Like maybe, my spouse can, your spouse, I don't know, but um, it's just, I kind of just thought I'm going to take advantage of this time and enjoy it for what it is. Walk the dog a bunch and do lots of yoga or whatever, and
Mhm.
have cocktails at 5 through Zoom with your friends or whatever. But that got old after a while, and so it was nice to come back. It was good to come back and see our clients. Um, I would say there's a greater appreciation on both sides, probably. Um, Coming back, it was a little slow. It was kind of scary. I actually had opened my books to take new clients after having, not done that for a number of years. So I gained a few new clients when we came back, and now it feels like normal busy to me. So I'm glad.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. All right. So you must have hair horror stories given your 30 years behind the chair. and you're 20, probably 25 years doing avant-garde editorial work.
Yeah.
So give us your best hair horror stories.
Oh my gosh, this is a tough one. I'm trying to. I mean, there are horror stories like it. Thinking back, I'm like, it must have to do with hair color, probably. God, I've never like damaged someone's hair to the point of like having a terrible situation or anything. I mean, luckily.
Well, that's good.
I mean,
What about photo shoot horror stories? Maybe one of your hair pieces, fell off of its stand or something.
well, God, luckily, I'll tell you, some unexpected things happen on photo shoots, and that's another area where I've learned to let go. You can't go into it thinking this is going to work perfectly or this is exactly how I want it to look. Just drawing from my own experience in working with Eric Fisher, for one thing, it's really fantastic to have a photographer who is also a hairdresser. That's a really wonderful, wonderful situation because
Yep.
I've got a second set of eyes, or, I've got him suggesting that I try something with maybe what I'm doing that I didn't see or didn't really want
Right.
to resist that.
Yep.
But I've learned to open myself to like say if he would say, well, why don't you turn that sideways now? Let's photograph it that way. And old me would say, no, that is not what I planned. That's not the way I made this. But I learned to like open my mind to that, and actually some really great things can happen, like good accidents, as they say. So I don't know. I mean, there are definitely times where things didn't go quite right, but it just seems like no matter what, you always get at least some kind of a shot out of it, something for your Instagram, or maybe not a collection that's worth submitting in your own mind, but yeah, things don't always go perfectly.
That's the creative process, isn't it?
Yes.
If you could wave a wand and change anything about the industry at large right now, what would it be?
I mean, my wand waving would have to do with social media, maybe, and like the lack of like in-person experiences that we used to have, in like years gone by or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think education is so readily available online, say through YouTube and that sort of thing. And I think that's great. But I also think that there's something really to be said for like having an experience with someone in person. Like we have guest artists come to teach us different things, and to meet someone you admire in person and ask them questions and get your hands in the hair along with them. I just think that's an experience that's maybe disappearing a little bit, and I don't like that personally.
Yeah.
I'm sad.
Yeah.
I also, I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of AI. I don't like it. I think there's a place for it. I mean, you can do cool stuff like create outfits and things that don't exist and all of that. But I guess I don't like I feel like it's creeping into the hair a little bit, and I see
Hmm.
it, and I don't think that's really, especially in the way of contests, I don't think that's really fair. It's,
Hold on. So you're seeing it in the images?
well, I'm just saying, I feel like I see it. I feel like I see people show their work, and you can kind of sometimes tell when hair is real or not. I mean, there's been Photoshop and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
we've had those tools available, and of course we use them. Everybody does that, like to touch up hair and to, clean things up a bit. But cleaning things up a bit is different than creating whole pieces that don't even exist. And I guess that's what I fear. There's such a blur between what's real and what's not real these days, that I hope
Yeah.
I don't lose like the actual craft. So
Yeah. I think that's spot on. We haven't had that yet. We haven't had that answer yet. But the not just the hair industry, but of course, broader society. Lots of people, especially those people involved in AI closest, have been warning about the potential pitfalls of it for many, many years.
Mhm.
And I think the Nobel Prize winners were just announced this morning, and one of the godfathers or whatever of AI won, and he's been warning about the potential risks of it for many, many years. So, yeah, and I think one of the big ones is just, the general public losing faith in what they actually see
Right.
online, right? And the more that we interact online versus in person, the more it's important that what we see is trustworthy and true.
Yes.
And so, of course, AI is going to make that more difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with all of that. Those are my feelings. I know that there's a purpose for it, and there are places where it needs to be utilized, and it's a good thing. But it is too bad that, I mean, don't you find yourself questioning, like you see something and you say, "Oh, I like that," or like, "Oh, that's moving." It's just an image you see, and maybe not even hair related. But then you ask yourself, "Wait, is that real? Is it real?"
Hmm.
And I
Right.
don't like that, you know? Like,
Yeah. No,
this hair is
100%.
supposed to be fun, right? It's supposed to be fun,
Right.
and um we're here to support each other, and I love that. Like, I think our industry still does a good job of that. I think I see people supporting each other, and it feels good to do that. But I just want to support what's real, I guess, without question.
So, so ChatGPT does images, and my son, who just turned 12 years old, had a school project, and I'm not sure what the school project was asking him to do. It was him and a couple other classmates, but they generated through ChatGPT these images, which were really extraordinary, um, that they never would have been able to do without AI. And these images perfectly represented this concept that they were submitting, for this project. And it dealt with like all the different foods and why they have different flavors. And so they created these extraordinary images with hundreds of different foods together, all like in different sort of contexts in almost a cartoon way, which was really amazing and really, I guess, rounded out their presentation. But at the same time, would it have been better if they had to somehow create those images themselves, whether through drawing or just trying to use words to describe, their concept versus simply telling ChatGPT what the concept is and having the computer spit out the image, which essentially is worth 1,000 words.
Right.
Um, but we're going to be dealing with this for the rest of our lives,
Yeah.
probably in increasing intensity. But
Yes.
it's very interesting. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
Well, any last words for the community?
Oh, well, just keep on creating, and hairdressers, just, all the power to you. Just keep doing great hair and supporting each other. And don't give up if you have a dream. That's my thought to put out there. If you have a dream and you have passion for what you're doing, then don't give up on your dreams.
That's right. Trish Dool, hairdresser on Instagram, Dool,
Yeah.
hairdresser on Instagram. Thank you so much, Trish. It was
Thank
great
you.
talking to you.
I appreciate it. It was wonderful chatting with you.